Hey everybody, this is Nina here. So today I wanted to make this video because I've been seeing quite a few videos of, mostly people that have done like testimony videos and how their relationship with God has been growing since then. So I wanted to do something like that because I thought it would be cool. So before I started the video, I was praying to, so I don't like confuse anybody who watches this video. It's pretty much like, kind of like a bit story about like the things that God has done for me and how, the person I am now because of him. So I'll begin with that. While I was going to school, I was bullied a lot for being the most quiet person in my class. So sometimes like the teachers would have me read out loud to the class, and it would be so intimidating for me because I used to hate reading out loud. And sometimes at the college, but I didn't really care at the time, but I will get on with it. So I used to have trouble pronouncing words and sometimes sentences, and I would make fun of for it. And a lot of people, like my classmates, would say terrible things to me, like they call me dumb, idiot, all this other stuff. And so it was just really hard for me, and I used to be so insecure by it since then. But then it just got to the point where I didn't take things personal. It just, I've always looked at the brighter things in life. Because, for me, I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna care like what this person say, because that's just their opinion. But then, I was like really young then, so, it was just kind of a lot for me to take in and kind of like, I guess, accept it back then. But, that's not true. Like, you can't accept things that happens to you in life. You just gotta learn how to brush it off, I guess. So that's just what I've done. I've always, tried my best to look at the brighter things and seeking happiness. But then in reality, as a Christian, it may sound like it's a good thing, but seeking righteousness is what God wants you to do, and just putting your trust in him. So I didn't really had a lot of friends either. It's just I only had one friend, I would say, but then I got along with a few people. And I guess like then at the time I used to get taken advantage of pretty much my whole life, especially like when people who I thought were my friends, but then it just turns out that they were using me because they didn't really have anybody to be friends with, or just didn't have anybody to hang out with. And I felt very bad for them. And I used to be the type of person that would have a hard time saying no. And if I were to say no to them, then I would have fear of being alone and not feeling like, my friends don't really care for me. And that used to be my fear back then, hurt pretty much. And then it just got to the point where, I don't know, like, I'm like, man, is this what I'm gonna have to put up with for the rest of my life? But then I didn't want to think too much of it because, like I said, I was still a kid and I didn't really know well enough like what life is going to lead me. So, but then later on, it just got to the point of, people taking advantage of me or people using me and all this other stuff. And it just got to the point where I was really depressed. So I remember this. I was 16 years old, and it was, during fall when this happened, and I just couldn't stop crying at night because I used to have terrible nightmares. And I just believe that, Satan was just giving me this nightmare. And some of you might laugh about it, thinking like, why would Satan make you think that way? But for those of you who are true believers of God, you would definitely know about this. Excuse me. So I was just getting nightmares to the point where I had like this vivid image in my head where, I just did not like living on this earth anymore. Like, I don't want to be here. And it just got to the point where I wanted to harm myself. And it was really scaring me, and I didn't know what to do. But instead, I had this urge to where I need to tell somebody, which I did believe God was speaking to me and said, you need to tell somebody about this, or you need to put your trust in me. So the next day, I was telling my best friend about these nightmares I've been having for a month, sorry. And, she was like very concerning, and she was asking me a few questions such as, why did you have these nightmares? Like, or why did you want to do that to yourself? And I told her, I'm like, well, I don't know. It's scaring me and I don't know what to do, and I just felt like for some reason I need to tell you about this. And then she was encouraging me to tell my relatives and, seeking a counselor too at school. And so I did that. And then when I told my relatives back at home, it was scaring them too. They didn't know why I had like these thoughts, but I'd say it's like stinking thinking. But then it was a terrible nightmare. It was just too much. So I even, they all prayed for me, and it just felt very heartwarming, just having somebody that truly cared for me, because, I just was very depressed is what it was. So then a couple months has passed by, and my grandmother, she made so much trouble for me that she got me 2 gifts. One was a sort of like a Bible. It's called Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, and it's like, it goes by dates, and it tells you like a passage, and then there's like a Bible underneath it. And then my grandma, she also got me this bracelet. It's like a prayer, which is what it is. I mostly wear it like when I go out places or go to church, and this is something that I would always cherish for the rest of my life. And I'm just very happy, that somebody like her would put enough time just to get me something like this. And I would always value this forever, So yeah, I mean, that's when, I felt like God's presence were there at the time. And it just got to the point where, I did believe God exists. I did believe that God was good, and, he can do pretty much all the impossibles that, pretty much human beings can ever do. But then, you always felt like something's missing, to where you believe that, something just doesn't feel right. And what it was is that I was not growing my relationship with God. I wasn't really praying as much as I did, nor reading my Bible so much. But then I always thought, kind of like pastors that would say good things, but then they don't get into the scripture. I used to be that type of Christian. So my faith was very little. And so fast forward to college, and I will say that college was something that I've worshipped all the time, that I put my time and effort on everything. Like, I was studying a lot, I was focusing on my assignments, and just everything. And especially when I was going to work as well. But then college was just pretty much something I worship. And I'm not just trying to say that to exaggerate. It was just pretty much something that most people don't see, but then it's real. It happens. And so it was like all these 4 years of stress and just putting a lot of my time at school, because I didn't give enough time for God and just all the things that he did, because at the time I believed that college would lead me to success, but that's not the case. College, it just really depends. But like I said, on certain situations, but I guess I wasn't taking, college too seriously, because I was focusing on like what's gonna happen. Like I was focusing on the future and not really like what I was doing now, or just putting my trust in God. So everything was pretty much all planned, sorted out. So I was that type of person. And I was like telling like my friends, co-workers, families, like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. And then with all that time and effort, I actually got accepted to a university in Oklahoma, and I was just really excited because it said that I had like a scholarship and everything like that, and I'm just like, okay, let's go. And then it was a Christian university, by the way, and I thought, you know what, I believe I could grow my faith with God while going to school. But that's not true. That's just not how Christianity works, or wanting to walk with God. That's just not how it works. Like, you can't expect that, okay, I'm gonna go to school first and then I'm gonna worship God. That, like, no, just don't do that. But then it was before the pandemic happened, and I remembered I was talking to one of the counselors over the phone, and it sounded great and everything, but then the things that I don't like that just didn't seem right with me was that they talked about, do you want to go on student loans or something like that? And I thought in my head thinking, I don't want to do student loans because that's just not what I wanted to do. And so, things were not just going right. But then my main goal was to go to school and graduate. And like I said, it just took me about 4 years to finish community college, and, just putting a lot of my time on it. And so then it was a month before I was supposed to go to Oklahoma, and one of the counselors called me again and said, it just seems like that the scholarship is not going to cover everything. It's just going to cover, just the dorms, and I guess the dorms and the meals, and not the whole thing. And I just got very overwhelmed, and I go, you know what, I just can't do this. So I pretty much, told them, I no longer want to go to the university. Thank you for your time and all. And that was it. And I just felt lost then, like, you know what, I don't know what to do with this whole pandemic going on, and just me not going to school anymore and not having the career that I really wanted to have is not going to work out. But then with all this going on, I didn't have enough faith with God, and just putting my trust in him and having patience was something I didn't have up until now. So with that, here's one of the things that I wanted to mention. So I reconnected with God, last year in January, and it's just really one of the best feelings I've ever had. And the things that God has taught me right now is having love and patience. And I even have a Bible verse right here. I brought my Bible with me, on 1 Corinthians chapter 13:4 says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not invite, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. And so that was just something that has been around with me, ever since I was, going through a depression at the time. I was 16 and just having these terrible nightmares, and just to the fact where I used to get taken advantage of from people, you know, like these so-called friends, never showed me what real love is, because I was always being taken advantage of and being pushed around by others, and you know, and there was just not really support, is what I'm saying. And two, you know, while I was going to college, there was a lot of things that were going on in my life, but I don't want to say too much because, you know, it's confidential. But I will mention that, you know, by the time I was 19, I had a friend who took me to church every Sunday, and this was when I graduated from high school, you know. But then, you know, she took me to church every Sunday morning, and she, you know, she's old enough to be my grandmother, and, you know, I really love this woman so much. And it was sad when I heard the news that she passed away from a stroke. And this was like in January of 2018, at the end of the month. And so it was just very saddening to me when I heard the news. And along with that, I was, you know, I was working at a new job a couple months later. And then I remembered calling my best friend's house phone because, you know, I haven't really heard from her in a long time. And so I called her house phone, and it ended up becoming one of her siblings that answered it. And I said, "Oh, hey, is so-and-so there?" And they said, "Did you not hear?" And I said, "No, hear what?" And they said, you know, she moved to a different state, and I don't know when she'll be back, but, you know, but she's going to be living there for a while. And I was just very heartbroken because, you know, my best friend had always been there for me, and we still talk to this day. And, you know, our friendship has, you know, been growing for a very long time since then, and I would always love and care for my best friend. And so with that, I was just very sad and very heartbroken from a couple things that were going on in my life, and other things too. And I'm just like, you know, why is this happening to me? I have a friend who passed away, and I never really got a chance to really speak to her or anything. And then my best friend, you know, is no longer, you know, living here, like, you know, in the hometown where I used to live. And I was crying out to God. I'm like, you know, God, why is this happening to me? So, you know, I've mentioned about speaking righteousness earlier. So I had someone saying this to me back then, where God can have somebody you care about or your loved ones gone to be closer with him. And, you know, it took me a while to sink that in, because I didn't really understand it. I'm like, but why would God do such thing? But then the thing with God is that, you know, you don't want to be rebellious against God, or, you know, going against his laws, because God can do pretty much anything really to get you to be closer with him. And, you know, like I said, it was just a lot for me to take in. But then getting into the word, you know, as I am now, and getting into the Bible, is just something that's just been truly a blessing thing since then. And every time I read the Bible, it just always fulfills me every day, and it just makes me so happy of all the things that God can do. And, you know, my relationship with God right now, and the things that God is teaching me, is to have love and patience. And instead of seeking happiness like I used to think back then, God would rather have me seek righteousness and to continue on walking with him. And also, to move forward with God as well, which is something that I've been, you know, doing for over a year now since I reconnected with him. And so that is just something I wanted to share. And thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.